Hollow Earth looks real dumb.
Kong and the team find an entire ecosystem very similar to Skull Island.
At least we find out Hollow Earth is basically Skull Island underground.
And while we're talking about the Hollow Earth, this is something that needs to be fleshed out in a future installment.
This whole sequence is nuts.
I thought the Hollow Earth stuff was a little weird.
I don't follow the Hollow Earth stuff.
So I think Hollow Earth in this movie is actually a little bit different from the Hollow Earth mentioned in King of the Monsters and Skull Island, because this is definitely a very journey to the center of the earth description, whereas before I just thought it was kind of a travel tunnel system. I'd need to go back and watch that.
Like Hollow Earth, if you're going to a place called Hollow Earth, it should look like a Dyson sphere. You should be on the inside of a sphere with the core of the planet floating in the middle of that. And so the curvature of the Earth is backwards there. And instead, Hollow Earth is just like a really long, flat area.
Where when you go down in there, it's a tropical paradise underneath Antarctica because the Earth is hollow. It is not flat, but it is hollow. There's nothing inside of it. There is no core of the Earth. There is no anything like that.
It just... I don't know. It just felt really weird to me.
So I had to have a conversation with my wife about 0 point energy and how it applied to this movie when they're going through that gravity barrier flipped upside down whole situation. It was interesting. I wish they would have explained it more, but it does make sense that gravity flips midway through when you're in the core.
It's interesting how gravity reverses. It's I want to say 0 point energy.
And then this one is just sort of cool where there's opposing gravitational pulls because of just how this is structured.
Where there's gravity on the lower, gravity on the floor and on the ceiling. And so if you get up in the middle, you flip and go up, and now you're on the ceiling.
This is so cool.
That didn't land for me at all, personally.
I dig it. It's very imaginative.
I just cannot explain how much I hate this Hollow Earth thing. It is killing me.
Why would that be what Hollow Earth is?
Now, this whole segment reminded me of what I first imagined when reading Jules Verne's Journey to the Center of the Earth.
You can't introduce a Journey to the Center of the Earth style world with famous kaiju and not explore it fully, especially when there's a clear history of something going on down there.
That's not Hollow Earth. That's a super flat section of the Earth, which it doesn't work because the closer you get in towards the center of the Earth, then the horizon should look more extreme, and there it's just flat, and so there's no horizon.
I'm willing to suspend disbelief on a lot of things here, but I just feel like this is one step too far. Right? Giant monsters fighting each other, okay, but then it's and also the Earth's hollow.
So there's just a big flat shelf somewhere in the Earth. That's what I'm calling it now, the big flat shelf Earth.
And there's a sun under there or whatever. There's some light source under there that grows palm trees.
So Hollow Earth is really cool.
The design here is pretty awesome.
I'm really struggling with this.
Man, I really enjoyed what they did with it. It's surreal, it's fun. Journey to the Center of the Earth, I feel makes a lot less sense.
Obviously, there's no real-world scientific basis for the Hollow Earth theory. But I like that they point out that there's some weird sci-fi phenomenon going on deep underground to kind of explain the physics of it.
A throwaway but fun battle was the first appearance in Hollow Earth.
And there's monsters there and stuff, and
those snake bird things.
Watch out for flying cobras.
Okay, my wife is asleep by this point, and I have to say, I am completely checked out of the story. I know King Kong is swinging monsters around in the center of the Earth or whatever, but I cannot give a about anything that is happening in this movie right now.
So once we get into Hollow Earth, right after the 2001 A Space Odyssey LSD trip, one of the first things we see is definitely King Cobra from the Godzilla 98 animated series, from their Destroy All Monsters version.
Then in the Hollow Earth, we get some winged vipers, which I guess I missed the marketing on that. I don't know what the hell they're called, but they're big icky snakes with wings. Ew, gross.
It's called Nozuki and Warbat, but seriously, it is friggin' identical to King Cobra.
Seeing that creature actually reminded me of a design I had for characters years ago, where I crossed elements of a snake and a spider. Obviously, this leans more towards like a cobra with dragon-like wings or whatever, but it's kind of an uncanny resemblance the more I thought about it.
Go look it up yourself. I'm right.
Though it probably could have been cut.
Hell, this could be a prime opportunity to introduce other unseen kaiju from Toho.
I wonder if more than the skull crawlers come up from the Earth.
I loved seeing all these weird monsters in the Hollow Earth.
Wait, wasn't the point of the Skull Island movie is that they were mapping all the tunnels and stuff under the island? Why did they have to fly them to Antarctica? Didn't they have stuff going to Hollow Earth there?
You know, to date, we technically haven't been able to dig past the Earth's crust, so we don't actually know what's in the mantle. I mean, we probably do. 99% sure it's super hot, condensed, molten magma, but what if, you know? Now, I'm no scientist, I'm no expert, but from what I understand, just doing a cursory Google search, the Earth's crust is approximately between 5 and 10 kilometers thick on average. The deepest humans have ever gone, apparently, was the Kola Super Deep Borehole. In Russia, which was about 12,000 meters or 40,000 feet. Supposedly at one point, President Van Buren actually wanted to send an expedition to the center of the Earth in search of mole people. Maybe he was onto something.
What was that weird little frog guy? With he had Godzilla style spines on his back. Is that Monster vs. Ninja?
Kind of wonder if that giant lizard that eats the big armored insect isn't supposed to be like an ancestor of Godzilla, almost kind of like the Godzillasaurus thing from the 90s King Ghidorah film.
Is that Monster vs. Manila? No, probably not. Just a cool, weird little frog dude. And I love him.
Gorosaurus would be a great callback to King Kong Escapes. Maybe some other lesser knowns like Varan or Baragon. Hell, why not someone like Gamera? And add the American film rights to him and finally get him and Godzilla to clash. That's how they pulled this off.
And then they find the remains of a ancient temple.
Kong's domain.
And King Kong finds a throne and a big axe, and it's a super powered axe.
I think the whole thing of the Godzilla axe and the Kong throne and all this stuff, I didn't hate it, but it just didn't connect with me very well. I thought the bat creatures in there were pretty cool.
Is that vibranium? MCU connection confirmed.
Inside, they find an ancient throne room that has remains of ancestors from Kong, ancestors from Godzilla, and Kong finds a battle axe that is embedded in the skull of one of Godzilla's ancestors.
Gotta love the stone cathedral design. This is really cool stuff. We see Kong's throne, and he has an axe made out of a Godzilla scale.
The axe seems to be comprised of a Muto bone and a Godzilla-like dorsal plate. Begins to glow slightly.
All right, so King Kong gets the axe upgrade. It's what makes primates superior to reptiles, is that we can use tools, so I like that they're going to incorporate that. It's made out of a Godzilla spine, which is pretty cool, and apparently King Kongs and Godzillas have been at war forever, which is just really driving home that, this is a sequel to a popular franchise, guys. They've always been fighting.
Can we talk about how, epic that axe was? The Godzillas are apparently capable of dying but leaving behind their scales able to be charged, and the King Kongs can wrap that in some sort of indestructible rock stuff.
Kong places it on the ground, and we find out that this axe, just like my cell phone, has wireless charging.
So the power source thing was a mildly confusing and kind of generic MacGuffin. And it's yeah, sure, I get it. They're going to take a sample and take it back, and, radioactive power is going to power Mechagodzilla.
The Apex team then goes and drills out a small bit of the power source that is charging Kong's axe, that they then send the signature back to their Hong Kong base.
But then they just scan it, and they send the data back through a lot of ground, couple of miles of ground.
Which is incredible that they're in the center of the Earth, and they're able to send details all the way back up to Hong Kong. That is way beyond 5G.
Godzilla approaches Hong Kong.
We jump back up to Hong Kong. Godzilla has arrived. He has sensed Mechagodzilla's activation, but then also senses Kong.
The coolest looking moment in the whole movie is walking into Hong Kong. That was pretty epic. even if the people were stupid.
The Titan shelter is a nice touch. Definitely reminds me of Pacific Rim Uprising. Monarch orders the evacuation of Hong Kong.
Godzilla then directly drills a shaft using his atomic breath.
But I was really ready for them to be done there, and then lo and behold, Godzilla, who's now in Hong Kong, just starts blasting into the ground. I mean, just letting loose straight down.
All the way down to the throne room.
To the point where it burrows all the way through the crust and everything, down to the hollow earth, and burns a hole through the roof, through the floor. And then he starts roaring down at Kong, like, come on, bitch. And Kong starts roaring back up, like, oh, hell no. And then the roof starts collapsing.
Mayhem breaks loose down in the hollow earth.
Whatever the bat monsters are in the hollow earth, in Kong's kingly chamber, his regal chamber, they reminded me a lot of Gappa from 1967's Gappa the Triphidian Monster, but I think that's supposed to be the Kamasots thing from the graphic novel I didn't read that takes place in between these.
The scientists find the energy source and the villain's true motives are revealed. They're charging up Mechagodzilla.
The Apex team, who are revealed to be nothing but jerks, attempt to escape through the tunnel that Godzilla just made with his atomic breath.
Yeah, some of the human characters kind of sucked in that you just wanted them to die. You know what I mean? Not like they're terrible and they ruin the movie, but like, for instance, and I am terrible with names, but the CEO's daughter is in charge of one of the vehicles on the way down, and she's the one who's like, we're stealing this energy and there's nothing you can do about it.
On their way by, they make the brilliant decision to shoot Kong with a pea shooter.
When they're flying out, Kong is like in the way of the portal, so she's like, just shoot him. And of course they do. And right when they're about to go through, Kong just grabs their ship and crushes it and kills them. It's pretty awesome.
Kong grabs the escaping hovercraft, peeks inside it with curiosity, and then crushes it without a second thought.
To which Kong responds by grabbing their heave and crushing it in his hands, killing them.
I do really enjoy how quickly and nonchalantly Kong dispatches Maya. Like, you kind of want her death to be something very different, but then you're made to realize that, nope, she kind of really doesn't matter. Like, gods are fighting now.
Godzilla vs. Kong, round 2. Fight!
Eileen, Jaya, and Nathan get in their own heave and follow Kong all the way back up to Hong Kong, where Godzilla and Kong begin to battle for a second time.
But first things first, both Godzilla and Kong are handled with care in this film. Nothing about either of them feels uncharacteristic.
Kong emerges from the hole.
Godzilla is a force of nature reacting to the threat he is sensing.
The battle in Hong Kong was like, I don't know, Blade Runner 2021 Titan Edition. So much neon.
The Hong Kong fight is just stupid.
This whole scene is amazing.
So the second fight, Kong gets up through the portal into Hong Kong, and he and Godzilla start fighting in the streets.
It's like one of the dumbest things I've ever seen, and I absolutely love it.
This is one of the coolest fight scenes in anything.
And it's actually really cool. It's really cool to see Kong in a city that's not, 1930s New York. It's pretty sweet.
Okay, so Godzilla and King Kong have to fight again. They fight in Hong Kong.
Godzilla and King Kong, they fight in Hong Kong. And, it's pretty cool. It's pretty dope.
They're slamming into buildings, Kong's pulling wrestling moves, Godzilla's slashing and biting.
And he uses his environment well. He uses deception, and he's clearly smarter than Godzilla.
Kong now has an axe, which he's able to use in battle against Godzilla. Certainly gives him an edge, as it is able to deflect and absorb Godzilla's atomic breath.
I didn't love, again, the Godzilla axe I thought was kind of stupid, but, if you're going to give Kong a weapon that's like, I guess a hand-me-down from his past generations or something, that's a pretty cool one to use, I suppose. Could be a lot worse.
The axe that is made from the plates of one of Godzilla's ancestors is a pretty awesome weapon for Kong to wield.
Then when they meet again in Hong Kong, Kong puts his newly found axe to good use and gives Godzilla a grade A ass whooping.
I love that they did a reference to the tree with the axe blade.
And at one point, we even get a callback to the original King Kong vs. Godzilla, where Kong shoves the axe handle into Godzilla's mouth instead of a tree branch.
My biggest issue with the battle was that people were still evacuating. If Hurricane Titan is coming through, you leave the damn city. You don't figure out if he's going to hit the garden district or the financial district. You leave the damn city. People were literally running away still while buildings were falling around them. Bitch, you can see the monster. Don't check to see what street he's coming down first.
It's so much better than, the boring like land fight with rocks and stuff in the original King Kong vs. Godzilla. And yeah, they had limitations and Tron didn't exist then. Still, there's always a building for Kong to jump on. Even though they visibly show Godzilla just kind of like trashing everything, there's always like another building that he conveniently did not destroy.
The part where Kong's dodging Godzilla's atomic breath is so freaking cool.
So after Godzilla nails Kong in the shoulder, he smiles, and I really love this. It's a split second, but it is beautiful. And I mean, it's just face all up in the screen, and he smiles.
They continue fighting until Kong is able to get close enough with the axe and is able to cause an explosion by absorbing and deflecting Godzilla's atomic breath.
Kong uses the axe to block the beam and charges it, then sends it back at him, leaping through the air and bringing the axe down,
which ends up knocking both monsters back from each other.
But Kong slamming that thing onto Godzilla's face is one of the most exciting shots of the film.
I guess this signifies the end of round 2, which Nathan says goes to Kong.
Skarsgård says, looks like round 2 goes to Kong. Godzilla vs. Kong, round 3, fight.
So who will win between King Kong and Godzilla? Well, we found out who won in this movie.
And yeah, I got to talk about that.
After a short breather, Kong and Godzilla both get back up and begin fighting again.
Godzilla shakes off the rubble. Kong is waiting atop a skyscraper and then jumps on Kong's back, slamming his face through a building.
But Godzilla is just such a beast, and he's just unstoppable, and eventually just kicks the shit out of Kong. I mean, it's a really contested fight.
During the fight, Godzilla takes the advantage and starts beating the crap out of Kong, slashing and stomping him.
But he gets him on the ground, he's biting him and biting his toe, and he's trying to shoot him, and he's stomping on him.
It's not looking good.
But ultimately, Godzilla gets the upper hand and forces Kong to submit, but not in a willing way.
This time, Kong, without his axe, is thoroughly beaten by Godzilla.
It's a little disappointing that he gets stomped, quite literally, so easily once the axe's power is diminished.
King Kong uses his big axe. He's bigger than Godzilla. King Kong is bigger than Godzilla in this movie, and he has an axe, and Godzilla still kicks his ass.
And then, like, the coup de grace after the smile thing showing personality is Godzilla has his foot on Kong. And then they're just, like, yelling at each other. And this is reminiscent of the various Showa era films where, like, the kaiju spoke with one another and there were subtitles at the bottom, like, literally telling you what they're saying to each other.
The part where they scream at each other is great.
And they're, like, screaming in each other's faces. And
I mean, it was dumb then and it's dumb now. And, like, I like that there's no subtitles. That might take it a little too far off the deep end, but you know what they're saying.
It's like Godzilla's shouting, "Give up!" and Kong's like, "Never!"
Godzilla's talking mad shit right now.
Kong was game to fight, but he's beaten at this point, so he's down.
So, I have a dumb theory about versus movies. Whoever's name is listed first is usually the winner. I think one of the only exceptions to this rule are Freddy vs. Jason, which was kind of a draw, and Alien vs. Predator, in which the audience loses. Batman v Superman, Batman wins. Joe vs. the Volcano, Joe wins. Scott Pilgrim vs. the World, Scott wins. Mothra vs. Godzilla, Mothra wins. Godzilla vs. insert literally anything and Godzilla wins. King Kong vs. Godzilla, Kong wins. Godzilla vs. Kong, Godzilla wins.
I haven't talked much about Godzilla. Godzilla is my boy.
King Kong got his ass kicked 2 solid times.
Godzilla does win the fight.
He's definitely the second best Titan. And although he can take out multiple other monsters, Godzilla wiped the floor with him.
I will openly admit, when that scene played out, I was upset. Even my wife looked over at me and said, "You are so pissed right now, aren't you?"
So Godzilla definitely won that fight.
He stops Kong's heart.
Godzilla doesn't kill Kong, but essentially puts him in his place and retains the title of the Alpha Titan.
And, yeah, pretty conclusive evidence that Godzilla won the fight.
This whole time I've been saying there's no way that King Kong has any chance against Godzilla, and this movie gave him a weapon, and he still lost.
Having time to reflect, I agree that it was the right decision to make. Godzilla is more powerful, and I've never once not believed that. My stance was always standing by the underdog.
I'm sorry, Stephen White.
I despise people who instantly dismiss those they deem to be weaker and then proceed to rag on them while pumping up their big champion. It comes off arrogant and bullyish, and I can't stand a bully.
I like Kong, but I'm glad we got a definitive winner in this one.
Kong is the heart of this film. He's the protagonist of it, but Godzilla wins.
I am justified in my previous declarations.
Bonus round.
Jump back inside the Apex facility.
And this is the point at which things kind of go off the rails for everybody.
It's the Ghidorah skull.
And the pilot chair, the thing that like they use to connect to pilot the Mechagodzilla, is one of the old skull heads of Ghidorah from the end of the last movie.
Bernie figured out that Ghidorah's head communicated telepathically, and that Apex is harnessing it as a supercomputer, which definitely explains why Godzilla was so angry.
He senses Ghidorah, and when you learn that, it makes sense as to why he's being extremely aggressive in his search. This was a major threat that damn near wiped out the entire world. So I could understand why he's a little pissed.
Madison, Josh, and Bernie are captured by security. They are then taken up to Walter. Ren has concerns over the power source's volatility. Walter tells Ren to activate Mechagodzilla anyways.
Get in the goddamn chair, Shinji Zawa! Yeah, so the get in the chair thing, no, I laughed in the theater. I was like dumbstruck that happened. I will accept that as an actual legitimate reference to an anime.
Once he does that, they then quickly lose control of the robot, most likely because it brings Mechagodzilla's power to 100%.
When the energy source from Hollow Earth is like duplicated or whatever by Apex, the CEO is immediately like, use it right now, and they don't know really anything about it.
So it's at that moment that Apex charges up and unleashes Mechagodzilla.
When this energy source is introduced, it fries the brain of may or may not be Serizawa.
And I don't know, I'm wondering if this stuff wasn't basically just like Kazaa, where like they downloaded the data and it was actually just a bug. That, you know what? That's it. That's why Mecha G goes nuts.
During all this, the power surge from the core fries Serizawa Jr. and the AI takes over.
We finally get Mechagodzilla. And Mechagodzilla goes crazy, but Mechagodzilla goes crazy because the energy core that powers him is part of King Ghidorah, and King Ghidorah takes over Mechagodzilla and turns it evil and kills everybody responsible for designing it and goes crazy on Hong Kong.
Ghidorah becomes conscious again, kills Walter, and electrocutes Ren, killing him.
Yeah, I still don't know why Mechagodzilla would care about the rich dude. They just kind of leave that empty.
And the Mechagodzilla somehow kind of comes to life on its own. I don't know if it's through the Ghidorah somehow. That part's not really explained. It's maybe my one like, complaint moment where I really felt there's something missing there. Like, how is he all of a sudden autonomous and can think on his own and act on his own?
Something I did like was that the giant alien skull is capable of hacking.
I did like the idea that Ghidorah was possessing Mechagodzilla, so in a way it was like Godzilla facing two of his biggest nemeses in one form.
It's like Godzilla, but with missiles.
But it was really, really cool. So, as soon as it happened, I was like, and then he started doing stuff, and I totally forgot my question.
Because that actually does make sense. Godzilla killed Ghidorah last movie, but he regenerated when powered up. So, yeah, the skull probably has some fail-safe biology built in. Give it the right power source, and yeah, it's an alien. Doesn't have to follow the same rules as death on regular Earth.
So our third big fight in this movie is right after the second one. Godzilla has just defeated Kong, and he's kind of walking around just gloating in his victory a little bit, when the mountain behind him explodes and Mechagodzilla starts crawling out.
Godzilla's in trouble now.
And then bursts out of the mountain. Godzilla moves to intercept, but is easily overwhelmed.
And their fight is freaking awesome, and Godzilla's getting the living hell beat out of him. It looks bad. Like, he's basically limp, just getting thrown into buildings and kicked in the head and just stomped out. It's really bad.
My only real gripe is that I wish it would have come close to killing Godzilla, like put him on his very last legs, much like Godzilla did to Kong.
That was fun, and it fit. It fit with the whole thing. This just was, tone-wise, pitch perfect for what it needed to be.
So the Mechagodzilla. I don't know Mechagodzilla in the lore prior to this. I don't know if his origin as like a mech that somebody's supposed to be piloting is established already, or if the whole thing about like, and then it becomes sentient because it's still got a little bit of King Ghidorah in it. Like, I don't know if any of that comes from the previous movies, but I thought it all worked fine.
So today, this is actually the fourth iteration of Mechagodzilla, who first appeared in 1974's, you guessed it, Godzilla vs. Mechagodzilla, and its sequel, Terror of Mechagodzilla, where he was an evil alien robot initially disguised as Godzilla. Mechagodzilla was later rebooted in the Heisei-era films with 1993's Mechagodzilla 2, where he was designed by humans as a weapon against Godzilla, then again in Godzilla against Mechagodzilla, where he was piloted by the protagonist to defend Tokyo from Godzilla, which then reappeared in the sequel Tokyo SOS.
Like, I like the idea that humanity tried to build a mech. I don't understand how they built this mech in secret. Doesn't make any goddamn sense, but whatever. But fine.
Mechagodzilla just has too much firepower, too fast.
So Mechagodzilla has been manhandling Godzilla, and when they do the breath first breath shot, you can see he's almost double Godzilla's height. And I love this design. It is so cool, like pulse rifle punches and kicks, and then the jets that allow like greater mobility so that all this seemingly absurd stuff he's doing makes a little bit more sense.
There's a rocket punch.
And then top it off, he's got a drill tail, which like doesn't do anything else until he absolutely needs it to.
And Godzilla's been in about an 8-hour battle with Kong, so I'm sure he's a little winded.
And then Mechagodzilla comes out, and listen, again, Godzilla's impervious to every munition humanity has ever thrown at it, but Apex managed to, in secret, build a robot that's capable of totally rocking Godzilla's world. I don't know. That seems a little far-fetched to me, but it's fine.
The doctor and Dr. Lin, the doctor from Monarch, Dr. Lin, and the little girl come up out of the Hollow Earth after everybody when they see Kong is down.
And at this point, Kong's dying.
We find out that Kong is slowly dying because Jaya can feel his heart slowing.
And the little girl is able to kind of hear his heartbeat through the ground and realize that he's dying.
I started out totally convinced that Skarsgård would be a villain, but it turns out he's definitely the hero.
The funniest line was the whole coward thing in sign language, and MacGruber keeps using it as a badge of honor.
And that little girl is absolutely the heart of the movie. She's great.
Nathan is able to revive Kong by taking a heave and having it explode with a giant electrical defibrillator shock into his heart.
And Skarsgård figures out how to use the ship's power source as a giant defibrillator to restart his heart.
So Dr. Lin uses one of the heave vehicles and like sets all of its energy to like overload, and it uses it almost like a defibrillator paddle and shocks Kong's heart, which wakes him back up, kind of gives him like an adrenaline boost.
Kong is revived by an electric shock, and that is about as close as we get in this entire movie to Magic Fingers Kong.
There's just a lot of fun little references throughout this movie. I was really hoping when they jump-started Kong's heart that he would have electrical powers when he came back.
After getting his ass kicked, Kong gets his heart defibrillated with the magic space anti-gravity device.
The little girl runs up and starts signing to Kong that Godzilla is not his enemy.
Jaya convinces Kong that he needs to go help Godzilla, that Mechagodzilla is the true enemy.
And Kong looks over, you see Mechagodzilla just beating the shit out of Godzilla. And then she signs, that thing is the enemy. You're like, please be careful, but go get that thing.
Kong was apparently able to be resurrected by the nuclear flying shuttlecraft. So that answers the question about, is Kong powered by nukes like all the other Titans? Very interesting.
So our round 4 is Mechagodzilla beating the piss out of Godzilla, and then round 5 is Godzilla and Kong versus Mechagodzilla.
Okay, this undercuts the entire theme of every single one of every of these movies in both series, right? The theme of a King Kong movie or a Godzilla movie, or really any giant monster movie, is humans shouldn't meddle with things that they can't control because that thing at some point might overwhelm you and destroy you, right? Godzilla is like a very non-subtle metaphor for the United States dropping nuclear weapons on Japan and the dangers of that and the dangers of trying to harvest and like harness nuclear power and energy and weaponry, even though we don't actually fully understand how it works or how to contain it. King Kong is equally a very thinly veiled metaphor for humans should not for colonialization of other cultures and of industrialization of nature. King Kong is a force of nature. We attempt to tame him. It does not work. He goes crazy, causes all kinds of destruction, and eventually we have to kill him, and it's tragic, right? We have nuclear energy. We have nature itself. And Mechagodzilla is introduced, and he is the dangers of technology. We build this giant robot to fight Godzilla, except the giant robot goes crazy and attacks us because this is yet another thing that humans should not be messing around with because we don't understand it and we can't control it.
The last fight was kind of throwaway.
King Kong gets the upper hand and Godzilla gets the upper hand. It looks like he's going to kill King Kong, but then Mechagodzilla shows up.
After getting his ass kicked, Kong gets his heart defibrillated with the magic space anti-gravity device.
Kong's back in the fight.
At this point, Mechagodzilla is about to kill Godzilla. Kong jumps in to intervene.
So the mecha has Zilla against the ropes, and Kong shows up just in time to save his bacon.
So Kong grabs his Godzilla axe and charges in to fight and saves Godzilla's life.
I love the part where he pops his shoulder back into place. Definitely feels like a boxing movie.
The coolest moment is probably when Kong and Godzilla finally team up in order to fight Mechagodzilla.
Tag team!
And then Godzilla fights Mechagodzilla, and he's about to get killed, and then King Kong saves him, and then Godzilla saves King Kong from Mechagodzilla, and everything's punching and fighting.
I freaking love all of this.
And the Mechagodzilla reveal, and the team up doesn't feel as forced as something like Batman v Superman. We've all heard the Mothra equals Martha jokes. They're not funny. I'm sorry, they're just like ever since this movie was announced, I've been hearing them, and everyone's sent me that picture, and I'm sorry, I've seen it too many times.
And starts trying to crush this thing, and Mechagodzilla's about to mess him up, and Godzilla saves his life, and then they tag team Mechagodzilla, and they're throwing him through buildings and trying to beat his ass, but he's still really powerful.
Both Titans tag team Mechagodzilla and gain the upper hand initially, but are ultimately overpowered.
And he's just switching. He'll throw Godzilla down and kick Kong in the face, and he'll throw Kong down and head stomp Godzilla for 2 minutes. It's pretty intense. It's awesome. It really is a spectacle.
Making Mechagodzilla controlled by King Ghidorah, I get that we build him and he goes crazy and it's very similar, but this undercuts the entire theme of every single one of these movies by just basically, now the theme is no longer humans are the real monsters, right? I make jokes about that all the time, maybe it's humans are the real monsters, but yeah, that's the theme, right? That's the theme of the story, and it's not a complicated one, but it's an important one and it's a good one, and it's one that resonates. So the theme of this story now, with King Ghidorah being Mechagodzilla in armor or whatever, is the metaphor is now we have to work together is friendship, I guess, is we have to beat each other up to determine who's the king, but then if this other giant monster shows up and he wants to be the king, we have to work together to beat him up, I guess.
The goofiest moment is when Julian Dennison's character says, "It's not Robo-Godzilla, it's Mechagodzilla."
I love the name drop they gave for Mechagodzilla.
The humor there just falls completely flat for me.
It's so stupid and wonderful. And Mechagodzilla's name is always dropped like that in these movies. Like, in the original Godzilla vs. Mechagodzilla, you say you could even call it a Mechagodzilla. It's just always done that way. So having, what's his name, say, no, it's a Mechagodzilla, instead of Robot Godzilla.
And while I do appreciate the absurdity of stating the mechanical monster's proper historical name, as it were, in a modern context, the movie itself should have pointed out that absurdity. Kind of like how John C. Reilly's character in Kong Skull Island admits that he names the monsters skull crawlers, because it sounds neat.
Jump back to Madison, Josh, and Bernie.
So Josh isn't able to hack the mainframe to stop Mechagodzilla because, of course not, he's a kid. And that's not how hacking works. But he does manage to help out by spilling Bernie's flask onto the computer circuits, which causes the Mecha G to spaz out.
Josh is able to short-circuit Mechagodzilla by using liquor and pouring it into the computer, which stalls the robot momentarily.
It's fine, because all we're really here for is, we know what's going to happen next. Godzilla and King Kong team up, and then they throw Mechagodzilla through a building, and it f***ing rocks. It's so good.
Even as a huge Godzilla fan, it's nice to not have to worry about the heroic Kong getting brutalized and just enjoy watching two iconic monsters beat the absolute crap out of Godzilla's metal doppelganger.
He's got Godzilla down again, and Kong is trying to fight and block his drill tail from killing him. He's holding his axe, and he can't really do anything. He's just trying to hold his position. And Godzilla gets up and shoots his nuclear fire at the axe and charges it.
Godzilla is able to supercharge Kong's axe with his atomic breath, and Kong is able to destroy Mechagodzilla.
And Kong then starts hacking away at Mechagodzilla. He cuts off part of his tail. He's chopped off an arm. He's smashing into legs. And they just cuts this thing to pieces.
And buildings are exploding and everything's disintegrating. CGI explosions. Your entire screen is CGI explosions and like debris. And then they fight, and King Kong gets his axe upgraded even further by nuclear fire breath. The power of teamwork. King Kong and Godzilla cut up Mechagodzilla and destroy him.
Kong takes the axe to Mechagodzilla and chops him apart like the Black Knight in Monty Python the Holy Grail.
So other than Godzilla smiling, I think the only better scene, or just as good scene in this entire movie, is after Kong just shreds Mechagodzilla with the irradiated axe. He's chopped everything off, and when he goes for the head, they show the split second where he throws the axe away and then proceeds to rip Mechagodzilla's head off. He doesn't cut it off. He throws the axe away, and I love just this like act of defiance that the final blow has nothing to do with the weapon. It has to do with Kong's sheer strength.
They finally kill the most badass Godzilla foe. I mean, Ghidorah was great, don't get me wrong, but this thing was so awesome.
It's great.
Bernie invites Bruce Baxter onto his podcast.
And then you have a moment where Kong slumps back down like, holy shit, what a day.
Kong's getting too old for this shit.
And Godzilla gets back up first and kind of looks over at Kong, still looking pretty pissed off.
Look, Kong gave as good as he got, and in the end, I think Godzilla respected him for it.
And then I love the all the detail on just like how screwed up they look.
They both knew who the alpha was, but Godzilla can acknowledge strength all the same.
Kong gets up and they're squaring off again.
Kong and Godzilla stare each other down again, but this time, Kong drops the axe, showing that he's not a threat. And Godzilla decides to leave him be, this time.
And Kong just drops the axe. Like, you know what, I don't want to fight anymore. And Godzilla kind of roars at him and gives him a look and then walks away. Like, I don't think Kong submitted by dropping the axe. I think that was just him going like, come on, dude. And Godzilla going, all right, respect. Is what it felt like to me. It felt like, there'll be maybe another time we'll settle this. But for now, let's just be done with what happened.
He saw Kong take down Mechagodzilla, and game recognizes game.
Like, Kong looks like, I don't know, you ever burn your arm hair? Like, just to see what matches would do as a kid? It's like that, but like, a lot bigger and monkier.
The only thing that I wish happened at the end here that didn't is Godzilla's king of the monsters, right? At the end of the last movie, we saw all the other Titans bowing in respect to Godzilla. So I was really hoping what was going to happen at the end was that it wasn't just going to be Godzilla and King Kong teaming up to take down Mechagodzilla. I was hoping they were all going to team up and we were just going to get like a mosh pit where they were just slamming Mechagodzilla around inside of it from one monster to another. I want the Mutos in there. I want the Behemoth in there. I want the big Mothra to show up and, sprinkle some dust on him. Like, why wasn't everyone should have been in this fight? That would have been super cool.
Then Godzilla approaches Kong again. They do the Carl Weathers and Arnold Schwarzenegger handshake from Predator with Godzilla going, "You son of a bitch," before they go their separate ways.
And then go their separate ways. That's Act 3.
So they essentially call it truce, which, had they not given us so many cool, pretty definitive fights earlier on, I think would have been a huge cop-out, but I feel like they kind of earned it here. We see Godzilla just swims away back to parts unknown to wait for the next idiot to challenge him, and that Kong is back in Hollow Earth, and it looks like there's a Monarch station set up there to monitor Hollow Earth and to kind of keep an eye on Kong, which is pretty cool. I like the fact that they didn't just like, all right, later, monkey.
Almost giving him a nod of respect for saving his ass. They kind of have this understanding now, I guess. Godzilla and Kong just agree to disagree and go their separate ways. For now.
End of the film is a new Monarch observation post in the Hollow Earth.
And we end with a Kong monitoring station deep in the Hollow Earth, where Kong's just living the good life, reigning over his kingdom with plenty of wide open spaces to roam and bang on his chest.
Then the ending gives way to an approach to both franchises continuing without having to worry about those pesky crossovers.
With Kong, where he is now king.
And that's Godzilla vs. Kong.
Yeah, so this movie is incredible.
I really, really enjoyed this film from start to finish,
This movie made me really sad.
I loved every minute of it.
even if it felt like a lot of substantial character development was left on the cutting room floor.
This sounds very dumb, but like Mechagodzilla isn't high art or anything, right? He's a meme, right? But I feel like, man, this is disappointing.
So this movie is dumb, and it does have a lot of problems.
I think overall, Legendary has been doing a good job with developing the monsters.
It creates a lot of problems if you wanted some type of like a chronological story.
I think Kong, Godzilla, and Mechagodzilla were all done pretty good. I actually enjoyed the different take on Mechagodzilla, how it was humans making Mechagodzilla, but also a little bit of Mechaghidorah.
I've only watched the movie once, but I'll definitely watch it again a few times. It was entertaining.
I don't know. I don't feel like I have a lot to say about it. Big monsters fight good, you know?
I know this is an unpopular opinion. I know that this entire podcast is probably going to be guys, everybody else on the show just being like, how awesome was that? So awesome. But man, I thought that was disappointing. I was really sad.
I think they're getting a little bit better of the human aspect on these stories, but it's still not as great as the old school Toho stories.
I love this stuff, right? I wanted to like this so bad. I am the target audience for this. I love Godzilla movies. I love giant monkeys. I like Mechagodzilla. I wanted this to be great. I wanted this to just be, I mean, I'm not saying I need it to be like cinema or whatever. I just need it to be like, Pacific Rim should not have beat you at this game.
So the humans, like I said, are well used to propel the story in this movie, at least to kind of keep it moving.
It had 3 human storylines that I thought were all pretty boring.
Human characters don't give a shit, don't remember any of their names, don't care about them, and required backstory that I don't have access to or did not watch, but like I shouldn't have to watch freaking 3 movies to understand King Kong versus Godzilla. I more or less understand. These characters are like 100 years old, right? I should freaking understand the basic gist of what's happening here.
But I mentioned in my own podcast that like that is kind of the nature of the Japanese Godzilla films, is there will be several movies kind of in an order, and then one of them is just like, you know what, screw it, they're just going to be different, and then they might go kind of right back to that previous order and just sort of ignore everything that happened.
The action sequences themselves are astonishing and creatively shot.
The effects were phenomenal. I mean, my God, dude, the special effects in these movies are so good, and this one was the best one yet.
And both monsters have their time in the spotlight.
Yeah, I thought the action sequences were fine, but pointless.
I love the fact that they gave them a couple fights together and then just this brutal beatdown to establish how terrifying Mechagodzilla is.
I think it was clever though, almost a paper, rock, scissors situation. Zilla beats Kong, Mecha beats Zilla, Kong beats Mecha. It wasn't a cop-out like the old one where it's basically a tie. Godzilla definitely won, but Kong got to beat up on a Mechazilla, so, that's awesome.
And then to see Kong and Godzilla team up, this is what I totally called it by the way, but to actually see it was pretty amazing.
I think making Kong the main character in this one was super clever because, like I've said before, Godzilla is less of a character and more of a force of nature. It totally makes sense to kind of make him the villain in this one.
I thought that, God, it was just disappointing. It was just really disappointing, and I'm really sorry I watched it, and I'm glad that my wife fell asleep halfway through.
Didn't think I'd enjoy it as much as I did. I mean, I thought it would be cool, but that was something else.
Sometimes it feels like you're dragging on a little bit too much with the humans. I know why they're there. You do need the human aspect to help the plot, but sometimes I don't need all the backstory about one character. You can show me more backstory and more character development with the actual monster.
And, the Transformers should not have done a better job of incorporating humans into their movie.
They did a great job of developing Kong's character. They could have continued, I think, to develop more on Godzilla's character again.
I also like how, just like in Skull Island, we get more callback to the original King Kong story, like Kong being transported on a boat, and later with Kong climbing buildings and wreaking havoc through a city, but taking it in a completely different direction.
This movie is all Kong all the way. It's about heart and stuff.
Kong, I feel like, is definitely the hero of the film. Mechagodzilla would be the villain.
Mechagodzilla is cool looking. The design of him is cool. When he goes crazy and kills his other guys, it's cool. But gosh, there's so much CG silliness.
And to me, Godzilla in this movie is almost just like the shark from Jaws. You know, like he's not there for you to give a crap about how he feels. He's just blowing shit up. He's there to kill whatever he thinks is like a challenge to his supremacy. And that's it. You know, so he actually had like kind of a character moment when he decided not to continue the fight with Kong. Short of that, he's just there as a force of nature. He's there just to destroy shit. And he does that very, very, very well in these legendary pictures. Their Godzilla is straight terrifying. Like, that dude is badass. I love that we got to see him really swimming around in this one too. That was pretty cool.
But I do like that they made the lizard smart. He understood enough just to charge up the super axe.
To me, this definitely felt more like a Kong film than a Godzilla film or a true Kong and Zilla film. Your main protagonist was Kong. Godzilla would show up here and there.
It's a fun and fast-paced action film, and Kong is just barely enough of a character to carry the story himself.
Maybe if we got like a soldier who had to fight Godzilla, or the dude who's designing Mechagodzilla. Spoilers: Mechagodzilla does show up in this. But if we maybe had like the story of the guy making that, or like even just a Cloverfield thing where like two people in the city get caught up, like the beginning of Batman vs Superman, right? The two people in the city get caught up in all this stuff, and they have to like run for their lives, and we don't want them to get crushed by these giant monsters fighting. Anything here to like make me give a shit about any of these humans.
I like the little Easter eggs that they had throughout the movie. Not as many as King of the Monster, but they had a bunch of continuing to redact credits.
It's exactly what it needed to be, and had plenty of fun kaiju fan service throughout.
Mechagodzilla's killing move that he uses on the Skullcrawler, that is directly copied from Godzilla when he killed the female Muto with the Kiss of Death. In the original 1933 King Kong, he killed a T-Rex by crushing his foe's jaw. While they're fighting in Hong Kong, he tries to do the same to Godzilla. No luck.
Oh, a really cool callback moment is in in round 2, in the fight in Hong Kong. At one point, Kong uses the handle of the axe and tries to shove it down Godzilla's throat, kind of like the log in the 62 version.
But he does manage to choke Godzilla with his axe, which did happen with King Kong versus Godzilla when Kong shoves a tree down Godzilla's open mouth.
Not as cheesy and goofy, but similar, clearly intentional. I liked it. It was a cool bit.
There were some nice callbacks to the original film, like Kong's airlift, the tree in the mouth gag, and even Kong being revived with electricity.
And also in this film, Kong is revived by electricity. In King Kong vs. Godzilla, he gets a little extra juice to actually compete against Godzilla by absorbing lightning and being powered by electricity. Also in that film, Godzilla was weakened by electricity, so it helped level the playing field.
And if there were any more than that, then I must have missed him upon both viewings.
Did anyone else notice the Godzilla roar at the very end of the credits? I think that was a clever nod to the original KVG.
I feel like the cast in this one was really good. Probably better than, not maybe as far as like acting talent, because the first one had Bryan Cranston, for God's sake, but as far as the compatibility with the kind of movies they're making, I feel like this one, next to Skull Island, had the most effective cast.
I thought that the whole conspiracy theorist podcast guy sucked, and every time he was on screen, I hated it, and I hated that he was right at the end, and I hated that the kids contributed to the fight by dumping whiskey in a computer. That was freaking stupid, and I didn't like the whole oh man, my brother died going into the Hollow Earth, so I'm gonna try and go get down there to prove him right or whatever. Like, oh, this is super serious. The little girl in that storyline was fine, but I didn't like that guy. The evil CEO was obviously evil, and Dr. Sexyzawa was also obviously evil, so that was, just bland. That was probably the best of them, because it was just like, we get it, they're evil, moving on.
The breakout star, Kaylee Hoddle, the little deaf girl, I realize she's supposed to be Iwi, but considering they didn't speak in Skull Island, did she learn sign language just because her adopted mom couldn't communicate with her? Are all the Iwi people capable of communicating telepathically otherwise or something? Are they all the original worshippers from Hollow Earth? So many questions. Speaking of Hollow Earth, Godzilla is capable of just, burning his way down to the core whenever he wants? That doesn't seem safe. Is there a hole from Hong Kong that goes directly to Hollow Earth now? Do they have to like barricade that off or fill half of it in? That hole is big enough for Kong to climb up through.
There's a pretty cool scene when Godzilla is attacking Kong and the fleet. A boat gets hooked on Godzilla's tail as he's swimming towards Kong. The ship that is being dragged behind Godzilla, it was very reminiscent of Jaws when the shark is dragging the barrels along. We're going to need a bigger boat.
I want to know where the hierarchy that Zilla would have fallen under the whole Titan War, though. Is he the big bad? Is he like a foot soldier left over? Because if they had a whole war between Kong and Zilla species, that's interesting.
Godzilla vs. Kong, the more that I wrote about it and the more that I spoke about it, the more it really did feel like fanfic.
You know, this was like seeing the Avengers for the first time. We're like, oh shit, Thor and the Hulk or whatever. You know, it was well done. Very well done.
You know what it's like? It's like the end of those Marvel movies where you have like whatever, like a Black Panther where he's fighting the other Black Panther, or an Iron Man where he's fighting the other Iron Man, kind of, or like the end of Venom where it's a Venom fighting another Venom. You get the big giant CGI form of the hero and he fights the big giant CGI form of the other one, and it just kind of looks like when the T-1000 turns into liquid metal. It's like two of those things just kind of mashing into each other with a bunch of explosions and like particle effects. I felt like this movie was just that for 2 hours.
This is not a sequel to King of the Monsters. This feels like something that someone wrote in their journal, like during math class when they should have been paying attention to the teacher, and then finally got the money to put it on screen. You know, it's beautiful, and I really love this.
I also really enjoyed Wingard's stylistic choices. Maybe it's because I have hardcore ADHD, but the glowy neon lights and dynamic moving shots, they really sucked me in.
I don't know. I didn't need all the human stuff. I needed less human stuff and a whole lot more monsters fighting.
It was frenetic and fast-paced, but it was easy to follow, just like an Edgar Wright movie.
Because all the monster fighting stuff was real fun, and all the human stuff was boring and just wasting time until we could see some more monsters fighting.
I love all the neon lights of the city. It definitely feels a lot like Del Toro's Pacific Rim, but in a good way. I mean, that was one of the coolest things about that movie, and this definitely... it looks amazing. This is so good. This is what IMAX movies are meant to be.
And yeah, I did not enjoy it, and I really, really, really wanted to, and it just breaks my heart.
This is the ultimate popcorn movie.
That being said, I honestly wouldn't mind having an extended cut on home video at some point.
But this movie was great, and I'm very happy with it. And I know I've just said that in like 5 different ways over the past 7 minutes.
I think I will always have a fondness for the original Japanese films, but I do believe that my fondness for these films will grow over time.
But it's true. I really enjoyed this, and I recommend it highly.
But at the end of the day, the main question about this movie in particular, but really any movie like this, is does it deliver in the spectacle that you're there to see? As far as Kong and Godzilla fighting, did it deliver? And unequivocally, 1000% the answer is yes.
All in all, this film delivered on its promise of a throwdown, and none of the monster action was obscured or in the dark.
Their 2 fights were just fantastic. I mean, really 3 fights were fantastic. And the fact that we got to see them team up was the icing on the cake to me. That was just really awesome. Yeah, we got to see him fight 3 times. My mistake. Three rounds. 3 really cool fights. And then you got 2 bonus fights on top of that with freaking Mechagodzilla and a Kong Godzilla team up. I mean, it really, as far as these movies go, does not get any better than that.
And Godzilla won.
It even ends in a way that leaves the door open to a variety of possibilities for future installments without setting a direct path forward.
I don't know where they go from here, but I can't wait to see what they do, because they really just absolutely killed it.
So I got a few theories on the next one.
As far as predictions go, I'm hoping for more space.
I do kind of hope they hold off for a little bit on the alien invasion and space stuff, at least for now.
I also was looking forward to going back to Skull Island, but apparently the storm that prevents people from getting there, I don't know, took over the island and killed all the Iwi people? That's depressing. I wonder if they will cover what happened in the comic or something. Because at the end of King of the Monsters, a bunch of Titans were making their way to Skull Island. Did they fight Kong, die, and then the island was ruined or something?
I'm really hoping we get to see Kong and Godzilla team up together against a whole bunch of other monsters in a destroy-all-monster-style battle royale scenario at some point.
I hope we get to see Kong and Godzilla again in this universe, whether it's on separate adventures or together.
But I actually think it would be smart to do a couple more solo Kong and Zilla movies first to kind of build to that. Kind of like how Marvel's been approaching their movies in phases with the big Avengers event films at the end.
And, maybe split up them boys, do a couple of movies with Kong protecting Middle Earth and Godzilla protecting Outer Earth. You can have like 2 franchises running at once. Not a big deal.
Godzilla rules the Earth, and Kong rules the Hollow Earth. And saying that out loud almost sounds like he got a second place trophy.
I'd really like to see Kong fight Abira because I feel like we got robbed of that movie, and I really just want to see Kong beat up on a giant shrimp monster. I also think Godzilla vs. Smog Monster is ripe for a remake. I feel like Hedorah is definitely overdue for a return. There's definitely lots of story possibilities open now, especially with the whole concept of the Hollow Earth. It's kind of like Skull Island, but way bigger.
I like what they did with Hollow Earth. That was really cool. But King of the Monsters really opened up a lot of potential for off-planet activities, and that is what I really want to see expounded upon.
And really, if they wanted to, they could even go back and do some prequel movies. I'm still kind of hoping for that Behemoth film. The woolly mammoth creature from King of the Monsters. I think that'd be awesome. I'm a little disappointed we didn't get to see Mothra in this one, but I have a feeling she'll be back at some point. Either way, the possibilities are endless, and I'm here for it.
If you have liked anything I've had to say over the course of this, come and check out Record All Monsters.
So that's all I got. I appreciate you taking the time.
I've had a lot of fun doing this. I want to thank the guys at Podcasters Assemble and We Can Make This Work Probably Network. It's been a lot of fun just corresponding with you all, getting this set up. You've done a killer job editing. Every episode has been a blast to hear.
Appreciate you guys letting me submit this. I didn't know this was a thing that I could even do. So thank you.
You guys have done a great job with this, and I'm really happy that I got to participate. So thank you so much.
Podcasters Assemble is a production of the We Can Make This Work Probably Podcast Network. Find more of our shows at probablywork.com and learn how to contribute to future episodes of Podcasters Assemble by looking us up on Twitter and Instagram at Casters Assemble or joining on Discord. The link is in the show notes. Submissions are always open. Thank you to everyone who's able to contribute to this episode. Be sure to check out the show notes for links to where you can find them all online. Thank you. Oh God, please, thank you.
Music produced by Deft Stroke Sound. Opening narration written by Eric Slater and performed by Justin Aki. This episode was edited by Eric Slater.
This has been a presentation of the We Can Make This Work Probably Network.
Follow us on Twitter
at ProbablyWork
for more of our questionable content.
Also, we have a website called probablywork.com.
Podcaster Assemble!
The main bad guy, played by...
Eric, you literally just messaged me on Discord just now. My phone vibrated, and you said, any luck with GVK. So I'm just going to send you a message right now that says, Samurai Pizza Cats are pretty dope. You'll understand later. So now you understand.
Shoot. Damien Bashir.
So the film opens on Skull Island. Appropriate. You know what? Let's back up a little bit.
Mechagodzilla.
Why did they build a holographic dome? How did they build a holographic dome? When did they build a holographic dome? I have so many questions about the holographic dome, and I understand that it doesn't really matter, but I want to know about the holographic dome.
I was really hoping that Kong was going to develop electrical powers. That would have been very fun. They had the spot to do it in. Ugh! They could have done it. They could have did it. And they didn't did it. They didn't do it. I'm very sorry for any issues my audio has given, being late on deadlines or whatever. I guess that's all from me. Remember that monsters are your friends. And also, podcasters, assemble.
All right, that is the show. That's Kong vs. Godzilla. Thank you guys so much for listening. And we're going to see you on the... What are we doing next?
Next time on Podcasters Assemble.
Podcasters Assemble will return and...
Mortal Kombat!
Round 1.
Fight!
Get over here!
Finish him! Scorpion wins. Fatality. It has begun.